Alrighty. Alright, welcome to Hedgehog Historicals. Again, we're wrapping up or getting near close to wrapping up our series on game design, focusing on building units for Warlords of Erehwon from the TT Combat line of Undead Hobbits. Now, today we're going to cover 2 units, so it'll be a relatively short video, but it's a good place to start. And this, because these are the support units. These are the heavy hitters. And the first unit we're going to cover is the catapults. Now, or the kind of stone throwers. Now, stone throwers, by their nature, are kind of expensive. That's just the way Rick designed them. There's a certain way to cost them out. And the crew are assumed to have clubs. At least that's how I decided to work them out. They don't actually appear to have weapons.
He's got a weapon.
Oh, he has one. Yeah, he has a sword. Well,
I think
that's a bone. So yeah,
that's a bone.
He has a bone. So that's kind of where they get their clubs. One of them's got a club. But anyway, so we kind of assumed they'd have some sort of weapon they can wield. Again, just like all the previous videos where we talked about, halfling skeletons, we use the same stats for those, and there's nothing different here. So let's take a look at what you can do with this particular unit as far as stat-wise and options. All right, so you can see, like I mentioned before, just like everybody else, the 6 agility accuracy. Now that accuracy of 6 is what's going to make this catapult unit better than most stone throwers out in the game. Of course, having a strength and res of 4 kind of makes them a little fragile. And their initiative and command of being 6 is just typical for the halfling undead across the board. They are slow 3, just like all other artillery and other stone throwers. And I left them being large, even though they're large for a halfling. I just figured it's easier to leave them at large. It kind of makes some sense because these are big. Now, one thing that you're able to you cannot upgrade these to a large stone thrower because the only model available to them is this smaller version. So the only other option really for adding anything is either adding up to 2 more crew at 4 points each, which you'd have to kind of pull in from other models you happen to have, since the actual TT Combat kit only comes with 3 crew. Other than that, you can actually give them the Howling Ammunition for 10 points. So it goes from a 66-point unit to a basically 76-point unit. Not at all a bad artillery unit for your undead halflings.
In comparison, the standard skeleton stone thrower is base 72.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and if you look at the actual stats for it, some of their stats are higher in some of those categories.
But the important ones, not.
Right, yeah. Yep. Yeah, see, the strength and the res, that's because it's brought down, and that's kind of where some of this, when you play with some of the points, you're not trying to game the points, you're just trying to work off the flavor. I'm sure the strength and res are 5 for the undead catapult crew. Well, for here, they're 4 each, so that's 2 points each you save. So that's 4 points you save. Across 3 crew member, that's 12 points right there as savings. So that's one of the reasons that some of these halfling units seem a little bit cheaper than others, because those 2 really expensive stats, strength and res, end up really discounting your models. So still, having these howling ammunition on that makes it a very frightful, sorry, bad pun considering you're putting extra pins on, a frightful unit on the table. So if you can bring 2, go for it. Alright, let's take a look at the last support unit we decided to add. Alright, so this is the last unit we're going to cover in the army for sure. We're still working on the werewolves, so that'll still come out a little bit later, but we're gonna call this series complete right now on these zombie ogres. Now, as you've seen across the board, there's a lot of fragility in the undead halfling army. There's a lot of good units in there, and because they're so cheap, though, you can have a lot of units. But some of their heavy hitters, can be fragile. So the cavalry will go in, do some real good damage, but they can take some damage real quick, especially against highest strike value weapons. So we kind of felt, both of us, though, Dave kind of brought it out first, I think, and he kind of convinced me that they needed something a little bit more, because like he said earlier in the first introductory video, all the armies seem to have some special character that you can bring, or a special model that you can bring. Most of them, or sorry, not all of them, some of them limit you to only one. I figured because of the nature of the Undead Halfling army, we wouldn't limit it. So Dave went and got 2 of them. Then we kind of had to come up with some stats, because again, this is another unit that simply does not exist in the book. So let's take a look at stats and talk about how I came up with the rule set for these guys. Alright, so let's take a look at the stats. Now, I kind of went the simple route with this one, because really the model kind of lays it out for you. It's an ogre that's a zombie. And so, well, let's pull out the ogre list for entry from the book and kind of tweak it to make it be zombie-ish, or just kind of zombify it. So we kind of left, I kind of left all the stats the same, with the exception of initiative, because zombies, being slower, shouldn't have as the greatest initiative. But I left the rest of them the same, because ogres, the way they're presented in the book, they should still be strong. 5, they shouldn't be any lower than a 5. I honestly think they should be stronger, but to kind of keep it in line with what Rick has presented in the book, I went with just leaving it at 5. Now, what I did take away, again, these guys are zombies, so they're slower. Though I gave them the zombie rule, which means they'll advance on a failed order test, they will not have frenzied charge. Okay, so they start with a base, but if for any reason they lose, they're unarmed, disarmed, they'll end up still having 2 attacks. So it's 2 attacks with the mace, which is actually pretty painful, because the strike value and everything. Or they'll have the 2 strike value 0 attacks, and they won't be treated as being unarmed. That's kind of why we went kind of stuck with that approach. There are no upgrades you can give to them. You can simply add up to 2 additional. So Dave could, if he wanted to, add yet another zombie ogre.
I could find a model.
Yeah. Well, WizKids, they don't make them. I think they should.
Mike's never been able to get another one in.
Okay.
And they honestly, well, 2 things with this unit. One, they do a good job in the I think 2 or 3 games I've actually bought them. They are they're a target. They will take fire away from something that they're a fairly expensive distraction.
Yeah, well, they're as an individual model, they're an expensive distraction, but as a unit of 27 points, single model 27 points, it's pretty cheap as a unit, order dice as a distraction. The fact that they're only the fact that they're res 8, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That makes them hard to bring down.
I mean, the one game that I'm thinking of that comes to mind is the dwarf game. They got chewed up, but they moved a unit that was in my way out of the way because he was scared of them, which, hey, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And the other thing, if you do decide to buy this army off TT Combat and do what we did with it, definitely get yourself these, because they are a great distraction from painting itty-bitty things to take a break and paint something bigger.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. Yep. Yeah, when you want to look at kind of creating your own army, and you start with a line that's out there, when you create something, you want to add to it, you're trying to find a unit that fills a role that doesn't already exist in your existing model collection. In this case, it's that special big hitter that is going to scare the opponent.
Yeah.
And it was good reason. Again, strike value 8, it is really hard to kill those things. Now, they don't have any wounds.
Not strike value 8.
I'm sorry, not strike value.
Oh, I wish it
Res
was
8,
strike
yeah.
value 8.
No, you need to bring strike value 8 weapons to these things because that's what makes these dangerous is because they don't have any wounds.
Right.
They are tough though.
I think we toyed with giving them wounds and then decided not to just because
Yeah.
it would be too much.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about the extra wound part when we get to the Crick's army. Yeah. But
No comment.
yeah, what we've got here, giving them a tough. Most of the weapons that go up against them are going to be strike value 1. So the chances of you failing 2 armor saves of 7+ are pretty low. And so it takes a lot to take these down. So you'll want to hit them, these will want to hit the opponent after you've already done some damage, whittled it down just a little bit, so that they don't get as much return fire.
In the zombie, if they draw the fire of archers, you're not going to worry about it because with zombie, they're still going to move.
Yeah, because that's the beauty of it, because they're going to advance even on a failed order. And my elf archers have had a chance to take them down, but it's so hard because, again...
Then he's not shooting what's getting up closer to him.
Yeah, and these things are slow. Ogres don't move that fast.
No, they're base speed.
Well, compared to the ponies, the fast ponies, and wights that don't have to worry about terrain, those kind of things, the ghosts. So and honestly, it adds a neat aesthetic to the whole army. It just somehow fits. So
let these ogres on the side of the road, and the zombies went at them, and hey, we got friends now.
Yep.
And that's the other thing with this game system more than any other game system is the fact that it's the agnosticity of it, if that's even a word. It's
it is now.
You can look at your army and be like, hey, I need to fill a hole. Let's go see let's just do what I stupidly do half the time. Let's go on Miniature Market and see what's on sale and what can I corrupt into using into an Erehwon army. That's where half my Erehwon army came from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of fun has been had since those days, since those purchases.
Yes.
So, yeah. So hope you've enjoyed this series of us walking through how we took a new line of models that came out one day and turned them into a Warlords of Erehwon army for our enjoyment. All right. Thanks for sticking with us. Share, like, and subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.